The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
Okay, and it's Friday. Friday, the end of the month. The end of the month of April. We're going to step into May in short order here. In fact, it'll be May on Monday. Sunday night. Well, Sunday. Okay. With us tonight, the first hour, is a gentleman who used to be on the program more often, and it's great to be able to spend time with him because Stephen Heuer is truly one of the most unique, original, dedicated, and honestly brilliant nutritional experts that has ever been on the program. He has a number of products, and if you click on Stephen Heuer's name, you will go right to his catalog site. And there are some key products on there we're going to talk about tonight. Many of you also will remember, I hope, in the past, our talks about something called chrysalis. HGH. Human growth hormone. No, not animal-derived. It's derived from bacteria that have actually been altered, and all they do is sit around and make it. It is an exact, 100% exact duplicate of what your body makes, and chrysalis is amazing. We've had a number of testimonials in programs past, and hopefully we'll be able to do more in the future, but that's not the only thing Stephen Heuer has up his sleeve. And so I've invited him back tonight to find out what's new. Are you there, Stephen?
I am. Thank you, Jeff, for the warm welcome. It's fun to be back on.
Sure. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
This product, chrysalis, has to be changing lives probably in more countries than you realize or can count. It is an amazing product, and I can tell you folks that from first-hand experience. It's absolutely as advertised. And it works.
Yeah, and I can say the same thing. I mean, I was introduced to something similar to this in 1998, and the results of supporting my adrenals. I had exhausted adrenals when I was like in my 20s, and nothing I did to try and rectify that worked nutritionally over many, many years. And when I was finally introduced to this and took it, I was like, this is the first thing that ever made me feel like I had an even energy all day long. I slept better at night, and that was the best antidote I'd ever found for adrenal function. And it's like it still remains that way to this day. I mean, even though other substances are nutritive to the adrenal system, whether they're herbal or animal-based, there's still this one overriding factor, which is how well are you supporting that adrenal so that it can maintain the optimum blood sugar, optimum alert state of mind,
right,
but yet at night shut off so you can sleep. And I've never worked with anything that works as good as the chrysalis to do that.
Now, this is something that is probably indicated in more people's lives than most of you listening would even guess.
Yep.
Adrenal fatigue and adrenal malfunction, and that's what it is so common in this society. It's an epidemic. People do not know it. But you can't continue to live the life of stress, anxiety, and all the rest of those kinds of mental states because they pound your adrenals over a year in and year out. And eventually they just begin to subside in terms of functionality.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that I talk to people every day that have some degree of adrenal fatigue or exhaustion, and it manifests in different ways. And one of the ways that's very difficult for people is getting good sound sleep at night. Because typically if you have adrenal fatigue is that the adrenals turn on gradually in the morning, and then at night they turn on more, and due to the lack of cortisol production, you have an excess of epinephrine at night, so you want to stay up late. You actually don't get deep sound sleep or very prolonged sleep, or even sometimes no sleep at all, simply because the adrenals will not shut off at the proper time. And by taking the chrysalis, it's been a magical antidote for me and I think a lot of people.
Yeah, I wouldn't be without it, and that's you coming on the program here just as a friend, and I just wanted to bring people up to date on this. It's 3 sprays in the morning, 3 sprays at night, and actually for me, I can get away with just 3 sprays once a day. It works. I'm very sensitive, and it works that effectively. So I guess it's a matter of personal need. But what you're talking about in terms of sleep is also a crisis issue in our society and as a species in this so-called advanced technological celebrity-driven world where everyone is always pushing. No one is seemingly able to sit back and smell the roses anymore. For some reason, this issue of chrysalis helping sleep by regulating the adrenals is an enormous secret. I wish I could get on a bigger soapbox and tell people, but you're here and we can do that. It's something, and I've had people ask me, well, doesn't it have any side effects? What are the negatives? Because you see these horrible drug ads on television. I don't see them. I've seen them on YouTube where they run a 60-second commercial from a pharmaceutical house. 20 seconds of it will be describing why this particular woman is smiling and so happy and beautiful because of this drug. And the 40 seconds remaining will be this rapid-fire machine gun staccato of warnings. Side effects could include anxiety, stress, and death. It's not a joke.
It cracks me up because it's just so crazy. They play the most soothing music to get the nervous system to feel calm about absorbing information of its lethalness. And it's just crazy that people even pay attention to this stuff.
I know. Well, yeah. Side effects, it's absolutely comical. Heart disease, stroke, cancer. Suicidal thoughts. And then, and death. And they just rattle this stuff off in this this understated, gentle, monotone voice with this pleasant music and pretty scenes. And it's like sugarcoating the most horrible message you could imagine. And it's constant. And these are allegedly very simple medications that in many cases are indicated, or at least purportedly indicated, for very simple things. And they have all these hideous side effects. And then, folks, when you start taking 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of these things and you multiply the interaction between these unbelievable side effect potentials, you're playing with a catastrophe.
Yeah, no amount of money and no amount of sophistication and no high-quality music in the background is going to change the laws of nature.
No chance. Well said. So you folks, when you look at these commercials, and I know many of you listening do, look at them with a jaundiced eye, believe me, and understand what's being done to you, or not you necessarily, but we as a species. They lull us into this state. There's the television hypnotic state, which puts you into deep alpha, if not theta, and everything at that point pours right into your subconscious mind without you being able to pass any kind of moral or intellectual judgment on it. There's no evaluation when you're in that trance. The stuff just goes right in, and there it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, a lot of people I know that are fairly health conscious in a crisis. They still reach out for. They don't know some of the natural things that you can do that are addressing fevers, infections, simple things you can do that would help to create your body's, restore your body's ability to regulate itself and reduce the fever and all that don't mean you have to just run out and pop a pill.
Now, there are some people who actually will take cortisol routinely during the day to try to make up for these problems. There are downsides to that too.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. There's a well-honed way to do low-dose cortisol that can rest your adrenals by taking, like 5 milligrams, I think, twice a day over the course of a short period of time to just rest them so that the crisis that they experience on a day-to-day basis can be broken, and they can actually rest enough so that they can start a new normal cycle once the rest is over and you resume back to letting your body produce it on its own. That is one way to do it, and I personally find this even more effective because when I took the Cortef cortisol product, it really made me feel weird. I just didn't feel very good. And maybe it was, I could have acclimated to it. But
I can only tell you, folks, that and we're going to talk just a couple more minutes about chrysalis when we come back. If you're over the age of, 35, Stephen?
Well, yeah, 35 or 40. Typically 40 is guaranteed you're going to feel and notice it, but a lot of people in their late 30s are also noticing, because they're so fatigued or whatever.
Right. Well, it's a miraculous 100% all natural product that is available through Stephen Heuer's company, and I do hope you'll click on his name and take a look. Chrysalis, CHRYSALIS. And we'll be right back. Okay, and welcome back on this Friday night. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stephen Heuer is with us, and we're talking a little bit more about Chrysalis before we move on to some... he has a nose for amazing products, so we'll leave it at that for the moment. What else can you tell folks about Chrysalis, rather than... let me tell them. It's an overall feeling of vibrance and an intensity of the life force that slowly builds when you begin to use this product. You may not notice it for a week or two. Some people notice it right away. Your sleep improves, and Stephen has already explained the mechanism of that. But I tell you straight away, this is, I'm not going to say it's the fountain of youth, but it's close to the fountain of youth, and because it actually gives you the kind of intensity. You feel it almost at the cellular level. And all of a sudden you've got more of everything like you used to have. And it's I don't know, you go ahead, Stephen, you're better at it than I am.
No, that was beautiful. I've been working with it for a long time, 10 plus years, and we've had so many positive reports of it. There's quite a few on my website on the testimonials, but anytime you're dealing with protein synthesis, this is the master hormone that regulates the rate at which cells can absorb amino acids and synthesize protein. So the analogy is pretty simple. If you're 25, between infancy and 28 years of age, you produce the maximal levels of this, and you're the most protected from all diseases at that window of time. After age 30, approximately, your production begins to decline. So even though you eat the same quantity of protein, your absorption of the amino acids into the cells declines, and cells then begin to atrophy and age. So that's why, even though you're still eating the same amount of protein, your body shrinks in both size and function. And so all the capacities of youth start to diminish. Well, this
Isn't that amazing?
It controls that and regulates, and reverses that. So you can now supplementally bring in something that is a factor of maintaining youthfulness. The kind of things I'd like to say about what we've had happen, I don't, but let's just put it this way. It's a critical, powerful factor that improves the rate at which the body can heal itself and the quality of life you experience just on a day-to-day basis. It's pretty powerful. And anybody that's health conscious would really welcome giving this a try, because it's a risk-free thing. You'll either notice it or you get your money back. So,
well, you look at Sylvester Stallone. He's 65 years old. He still runs a 60-yard dash the same time he did in high school.
Oh, wow! I didn't know that.
He's using it. Well, that's kind of the secret to youth, as you said, for a lot of folks. And it's not a narcotic. It's not an evil pharmaceutical. It's simply what your body is used to making, but it declines around the age of 30. There's no big deal here. It really ought to be standard operating procedure for everyone.
It should, exactly. And the same way you were talking about earlier, losing your cognitive capacity, and how that one of the things that causes calcium to build up in the soft tissues and in the brain is the high cortisol. And if you can support your body's adrenals to be less stressed and produce, a more normal level of that, then
taking cortisol does what you say it does, but it also can work against you. You've got to be very careful about it.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, my friend. What else have you in your magical bag of wonderful things? And again, neither Stephen nor I are doctors. We're not prescribing medicine here. If you're not feeling well, go see your doctor. Okay, there's our disclaimer right there, and that's where we live in these days. Disclaimerville.
Disclaimer. Yeah. Well, this new product that's in my, you could say, Santa Claus bag of goodies was introduced to me about a year ago when I was still, dealing with my recovery from what I was dealing with, and I was not too excited about the prospect of being introduced to a whey protein powder. But when I tried this product, I personally felt such a significant improvement in my own personal energy and well-being that I just was kind of amazed that this was this good. And gradually I started to get more and more testimonies coming in, and the results were people were detoxifying their bodies and experiencing a much higher level of health than they had previously. And they'd previously been on some sophisticated high-quality supplement programs, been with naturopathic doctors, done IVs of glutathione and various other things to try and detoxify their bodies of the heavy metals or the mold toxins or whatever, and they weren't better, or they only improved marginally, but not robustly. And then they get on this product, and all of a sudden they're being resurrected in every area, growing muscle mass, having an exuberance and an energy, a glow about them again that they never had previously for years previous. So the product was it's the first time ever developed where it's a whey protein powder, and this whey protein powder is unique, unlike any other on the market, because all the others on the market undergo a step of pasteurization. They undergo the step of cooking it to either 145 degrees for 30 minutes or 161 degrees for 15 to 20 seconds.
Well, now, if I'm not mistaken, that makes it a dead food because you kill every enzyme at 115 degrees or so.
Yeah, 118 degrees, enzymes are killed, and the big changes in the protein structure, and what this one inventor achieved is that he's working with milk derived from grass-fed cows from Amish farmers, raising these cows in the northeast United States, northeast coast of the United States. And so they're doing it all the organic way. They're not organically certified because they're Amish. They don't jump through government hoops. They just do it right. They do it without pesticides, without hormones, and true soil fertility. So the cows are fed grass their entire life, both winter and summer. And in the winter, it's going to be a hay type of a grass, but in the summer months, it's going to be the fresh foliage coming out of the ground. And that diet is what produces the most optimum and nutritious milk in terms of its protein, its fatty acid ratios, its health benefits to both the calf that would be consuming it to grow or to the human that's going to use it as a nutrient for its own body. And when you separate and then the other thing is that he then takes it through several unique steps. One is he separates the casein out. Hold
on, Stephen, a second. Let's come back. We got a break, and we'll pick it up right there, the 3 steps. Casein is a no-no, so that's gone. That's good. I will find out more about that as we continue with Mr. Stephen Heuer, an extraordinary man with a brilliant mind, and he can back everything up with not only testimonials but personal experience, and I can vouch for that. Back in a minute. Okay, back with Stephen Heuer, and we're learning about a new whey, W-H-E-Y, a whey product. And what's the name of the product, Stephen?
It's called One World Whey.
All right, pretty cute. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, the technology to do this, of course, is proprietary, so I don't know the exact descriptions because I don't even know what they are. All I know is that the separation of the casein is accomplished. It's not the byproduct of making cheese. So the whey is separated from the casein through some means, and then the whey is the portion that's the most digestible to the human body. It's got the smallest proteins and has a bunch of immunoglobulins that help kill off all kinds of organisms, has all kinds of unique proteins like lactoferrin. Lactoferrin is a protein that binds iron, so they found that tumors apparently grow from the presence of iron, and it appears to inhibit tumor cell growth by removing the iron by having the lactoferrin present based on studies done on animals. It's got lactokinin. Lactokinin's been shown to lower blood pressure almost as much as blood pressure lowering drugs, but of course without any toxic negative effects to the body. And then you've got the high levels of cysteine, sulfur amino acid, that's uniquely high. The highest dietary source of that one amino acid is in whey protein. It's not in the casein portion, and it's not high in basically any other food, or it's not as high as it is in the whey. And he takes this liquid whey and removes the lactose so that a lot of people don't digest lactose.
That's about 70% of people can't handle it very well.
Yeah. And the majority of the fat is removed, not because the fat is bad for us, but because when he first did the first batch and he had 100 people test on that, and the fat was left in, most people gain some weight, so he reduced the fat down to only 5% of its natural content, which preserves some of the fat-soluble vitamins that should be there. And then he mixes that with a cold-processed stevia. So all the stevia is on the market, and just for the listenership, stevia is a natural plant sweetener with no caloric value. There's no carbohydrate content to it, but it tastes 250 times sweeter than sucrose or sugar. So it's a nice, natural, non-toxic sweetener without any problem with regulating blood sugar. And most stevias on the market, not most, all stevias on the market are heat extracted, and that cooking process in excess of 200 degrees to extract the stevia sides out of the plant alters the chemistry and does create some off flavors to stevia that's on the market. So some people don't like stevia. But he's figured out a way to cold water extract the stevia sides out of the plant so it's never heated. And once again, now it's a natural, smooth, sweet flavor without any off flavors, no bitter or metallic flavors. So he takes this liquid stevia, mixes it with the liquid whey, and then he puts it through a 7-step cold-dry process so that it's never once heated. And so you achieve the pasteurization, that is to say the destruction of organisms required by law, and yet you end up with a product that is a dry powder of proteins that have never been damaged or denatured. And this is the thing that people need to understand, is that amino acids, there's 20 amino acids in nature that make up all proteins, and they have a specific shape that nature gives them under their growing conditions, whether it's plant or animal derived. Those amino acids have to retain that shape that nature gives them, otherwise the body will look at it as an unusable building block. In the same instances that if you had a bricklayer with a pallet of bricks, and the pallet of bricks is loaded up right in front of him to build a wall, and 70% of the bricks are all twisted and 30% are rectangularly correctly shaped for him to build his little brick wall.
Right.
He has to sift through that pallet of bricks to find 30% that he can use, and all the bent, twisted bricks are building up around him, and he can, he's overworking just to build this wall. Well, that's what happens from heating proteins, is that all these amino acids become bent and twisted by up to 70% or more, depending on how the level of heat you go to and how long you heat it for. And so a huge percentage of the proteins or the amino acids in the proteins we eat from cooking end up becoming only looked at by the body as an unusable nitrogen toxin, or as something the body, if it's healthy, it's going to try and shave off the nitrogen and use the carbohydrate portion of it as a sugar. And so you end up with a huge amount of energy wastage so that you don't utilize much from a heated product. So the whey protein we have, not having undergone that heat process, retains all of its bioavailability. Those amino acids are all available. And the results I'm seeing, like I said in the beginning, is been miraculous. And in the main area, where you work with any chronic condition, which the majority of people that I work with are dealing with chronic health issues, at one of the hardest or one of the most important aspects of helping them regain their health is the detoxification of some compound some heavy metal or combination of different toxins that could be in their system that their body's been unsuccessful at getting at, because once the toxin is in the system, it enzymatically interrupts the body's ability to produce the glutathione necessary to detoxify the body.
Now, that glutathione is being discovered by more and more people all the time. That's a very, very important underlying mechanism for keeping the body relatively clean.
Yeah, it is. And the thing that this is the reason I'm so excited, is because I have worked for years with mercury detox protocols, because that's one of the number one heavy metal toxins in people's bodies from dental fillings.
Oh, yeah.
And I've struggled to find some method that really works and doesn't also make people sick and or take forever to accomplish the results. And with the One World Whey, I feel this is the most effective way to do it, because, like I said, it's the highest dietary source of cysteine. Cysteine is the missing amino acid needed in the cells to combine with glutamic acid and glycine to be able to make glutathione, the tripeptide. And the glutathione, every cell of the body is supposed to have up to 10% of its protein content is supposed to be glutathione. So you have over 10 trillion cells. They're supposed to be neutralizing free radicals and grabbing toxins and keeping them packaged and eliminated through the bile function of the liver, just from the presence of glutathione that most people don't produce enough of and or totally offline because of the presence of heavy metals, incapable of producing any sufficient quantity.
Okay.
So you take the whey and you all of a sudden start to feed all the cells capable of using this particular amino acid, and you support the blood sugar, because if you take just the amino acid by itself, a lot of times the body will convert a good percentage of it into glucose and not use it. So you have to have enough amino acids present so the body won't turn it into glucose. It's going to then turn it into the actual glutathione.
Let me rewind just a little bit. This is an issue. A lot of people, there are a lot of vegans out there, vegetarians, who they're not necessarily lacto-ovo vegetarians either. They stay away from milk and dairy. This is a dairy-based product. It's whey. But the product doesn't have casein, which is bad. It doesn't have lactose, which is real bad. And it doesn't have any fat. So that's pretty well stripped away all the major objections that even people who are non-lacto-ovo vegetarians would have. Isn't that true?
Yeah, and then exactly the intolerance factor, whether it's those things you just said, the objections to, or whether it's the intolerance due to dairy allergies, both of which are nullified or eliminated. I've not had a single person complain, even with dairy-sensitive people, that there's been a problem, because that dairy sensitivity is typically to the deformed proteins from heating it, or to the indigestibility of the large protein molecule casein, which doesn't exist in this particular product.
Yeah, bad stuff. Okay, excellent. Hold on, we have to pause, and we'll do that and come back. This is again called
One World Whey.
All right. Wonderful name. Back in a minute with Stephen. Okay, One Whey World is the name of the product. What else, Stephen, you want to talk about? We have one segment left.
Well, the results that I'm seeing with people, I want to go through a few, I guess, probably testimonials that are worth sharing, because one of them was a woman working for me named Rita, who'd been on the good products that I also carry that help in other ways, the trace minerals and amino acids. And
that's another one. Let me just say I take the trace minerals every day for several years now, and they are, again, a crucial part of your diet that very few people get enough of. They just don't. They're not there.
Yeah, and the one you're taking is a unique volcanic deposit, so it's got high levels of monoatomic elements, and that seems to affect the electron flow and the healthy DNA expression much stronger than regular minerals. So it's helped people with their noticeable improvements in their energy, and a lot of people report some gray hair reversing, things like that. Just that I find this to be the best mineral supplement we've got. The Mineral Magic is the name. But so she'd been on that. She'd been on some amino acids. She'd been on even the chrysalis, and was functioning better for doing all those things. But as a child, she had asthma and allergy symptoms, and she was given antibiotics and asthma medications as a child and also in adult life. And whenever you take a medication, you actually interrupt the body's ability to get rid of what it was attempting to get rid of. So those toxins then build up in the system, in the lungs in this case. And then she always kept a little bit of an asthma medication with her in case she ever had an attack as an adult, and took it as needed. And then also as an adult, 16 years earlier, when her father passed away, she was depressed from that, and unknowingly was recommended to take Prozac, so she took that for a window of time. And we know that builds up in the body, the fluoride does, and it's toxic to the brain.
Unbelievable. Fluoride. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. So anyways, she gets on the whey protein powder, the One World Whey, and she's doing it every other day and experiencing these health benefits of more energy and needing to eat less solid food because she's just sustained for longer. And she's also a lacto-vegetarian for most of her life. And then she starts doing it every day, and then within a couple of weeks of doing that, she then reports how good she's feeling, and then within like a day of stating that statement, she starts to experience all this mucus expectoration for like 3 days, a thick green mucus expectoration.
Nice.
And then it goes into like a day of a lull, relatively into low symptoms. Then it goes into 3 days of a skin rash, a blotchy skin rash all over her body, and then a day of a lull, little to no symptoms, and then a 3-day period of watery pus-filled stools, and then another day of a lull.
This is a bizarre compartmentalized detox you're describing. How strange!
I know. That's why I'm taking time to describe it, because it's so amazing. And then the last 3 days was 3 days of a massive headache with drainage liquid coming out of her ears. And on the third day of that headache, when she was napping, she woke up and in the afternoon, and her headache was completely gone, and she felt so good, she got up and walked 4 miles, something she never does. And the next day she came to work, literally walking up the stairs and then getting to the top and twirling around like a ballerina going, I feel like fantastic. And she actually, previous to doing this product and experiencing that detox response, her speaking was not projected well and it didn't flow well. And now she was fluent and she projected very well. And it was amazing how this transformed her whole physiology over the course of this 2-week period of time. And I laid a foundation for people to understand that previously in her life she'd done various things that were suppressive in nature. Various medications would suppress the body's symptom ability to regulate itself and deal with what it was dealing with. And then either from the suppression of the organisms being excreted or the drug itself, it becomes deposited in the system. She was now strengthened in her body to be able to finally detoxify all those microorganism toxins that were suppressed in her respiratory system from when she was a child and an adult taking antibiotics and asthmatic medication. It came out in 3 days of mucus. She detoxified other stuff through the skin rash, through her skin, because the skin is another avenue of elimination. She detoxified through her digestive tract with the watery pus-filled stools. And then she finally detoxified right out of her head through her ears with a massive headache because there was an increase in circulation to the brain to actually pull that Prozac or that fluoride toxin out of the brain, that she temporarily had inflammation for that to happen. And on the other side of it, she's like reborn with more vitality, more happiness, more health, and more well-being, and more spiritually attuned than previously. And this is an exact textbook description of what Dr. Bernard Jensen taught in his book, Doctor Patient Handbook. It's described in Homotoxicology by Dr. Hans Reckeweg as a healing crisis. When the body mounts enough life energy that it can finally go into the tissues and pull out what shouldn't be there, It does it. And it does it in a way where old symptoms return. And instead of freaking out, you just want to know this is a good thing, because on the other side of it, you're going to have a much higher quality body. So that was one case of something real dramatic, and we've had several others.
And the name of this product?
One World Whey.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah, this is the product. This is what I'm saying.
Okay. So you're adding on to the whey testimonials. I got it. Now what I want to know is, you're describing bacterial discharges. The green mucus, this is an indication of a bacteria. Are you suggesting that this woman had obvious latent bacterial infections in her sinuses and so forth that were expelled somehow? I
can't comment on the color being a distinction that it was an active or I know that basically microbial toxins build up in the connective tissue of the human body. So you can have an infection that occurs, you interrupt it with an antibiotic, and then the metabolic excrement of those organisms and the organisms can remain buried in the tissues.
Right.
And then they have to come out, and so this mechanism brought it out. That's the way I looked at this whole experience, because she didn't have an active infection, no.
Sounds interesting. Logical. Wow.
And I have several case histories just like that. I mean, I had another guy who
same kind of compartmentalized sequential.
Yeah,
detox.
he was on the product for 2 weeks first before anything happened. And after 2 weeks, he started to have a red rash around his eyes, called me up, asked me, is this product causing a reaction? I said, no. Have you ever taken medications in your eyes where toxins might have built up in your facial tissues? He says, no, but my business has been metallurgy for years, and I've had metal particles build up in my face.
Yeah.
And so he went through 5 days of a red rash, and then 3 days of nothing, 5 days of more red rash, 3 days of nothing, and then 5 more days of red rash, and then it was gone, and it's never come back. And all the itchiness around his eyes is totally gone. He used to always have an itchy feeling around his eyes.
Fascinating.
And there's more. You can go to the oneworldwhey.com website, and I mean, you can listen to Bill Smith's testimony where he'd been a literally invalid type guy with black mold poisoning and mercury toxicity, and how he was totally resurrected on the way that he'd never been able to accomplish with IV of glutathione, with all kinds of expensive nutritional supplementation. And he gets on this. And the reason I'm saying this is because for a person to get healthy, the rate at which your liver is producing albumin and gamma globulin is a key factor. And you need amino acids that your body can do that with, and this is what provides that. Better than any food I've ever worked with, period. Even better than raw dairy that's fresh from the cow.
Well, forget that.
Nothing's come close.
might be something I would, as a vegan, be able to get behind because of the removal of lactose, fat, casein. How does it come? What form?
It comes as a dry powder. It comes in vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry. And again, the neat thing about that is that, again, it's real vanilla, been cold processed, real strawberries that have been cold processed, and real chocolate. There's no synthetic flavors.
How much do you take of it a day?
One or more scoops, depending upon what phase of healing you're going through.
So it must come in a large canister.
It does. It's a big 5-pound container, and it's $154 for a 5-pound container that lasts 76 30-gram servings.
Huh.
And
one a day.
One a day, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I've got other vegans that, or another vegan vegetarian that he never could tolerate whey either, and he's on this, and he says this is the first whey he's ever taken that he can tolerate, and he's actually interested in promoting it in his business because he's a healthcare professional.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
well, I look forward to trying that out. That's
okay. Well,
good.
I'll definitely send you some.
Yeah, please. I'll give it a go.
Yeah. Okay. Which flavor do you like? Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry?
Oh, all of them, of course.
Okay.
No, you can't lose. What kind of chocolate is it?
It's not Dutch cocoa processed, but it is cold processed, so there's,
okay.
Right.
A chocolate would be fine. Or let me go with the vanilla. I like vanilla.
Okay, I'll send you a sample of the chocolate.
Thank you. Whatever, Stephen. I appreciate it. I will try it. You know me, I'm honest. So.
Yeah. And hopefully it works.
By the way, not to frighten people, but these detox things don't disable you. You can continue to function.
Yeah, people, what they do is they'll back off on their dosage and frequency of use so that the detox slows down.
It's regulating the Herxheimers is what you're doing.
Yeah. But there are times where a person's detoxes aggressively like she did and they, interrupts their day-to-day functioning, but it's the exception. Most people seem to be able to work still, but they just slow down their quantity of intake, So, yeah, it's that can, but the other thing is that there's all these other benefits, it supports optimum insulin production, optimum blood sugar utilization, so it's really good for diabetics. It's really good for people with high blood pressure. It's really good for people trying to deal with weight issues. It's a great internal cosmetic because when you consume, my mom's 77 years old. She's been on it 8 months. She's more alert and she looks 5 to 10 years younger because her glutathione levels have made her face appear to look younger because of the anti-aging effects of that antioxidant.
What's it building? Is it building collagen?
Well, it supports the protein synthesis of the body. The rate at which the body makes collagen is kind of then going to be dependent upon other factors, but it supports it from a protein perspective. But I can't say, oh gosh, no, it's supporting collagen specifically.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing like a healthy-looking face and a happy face and clear eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that most people aren't aware. And the other thing I want to say was that anybody concerned about radioactive fallout, guess what the number one way to protect yourself from free radicals is from radioactive fallout or from detoxifying any radioactive element out of your body? It's naturally glutathione. So you have another way in which your insurance policy of day-to-day health is guaranteed or strengthened by taking a cysteine-rich, undenatured or non-denatured whey protein powder from grass-fed cows. It's multitudinous benefits, immunological benefits, so it protects you from infections because it's got immunoglobulins in it. Immunoglobulins kill off organisms, invading infectious organisms, so it's multitudinous benefits, and it's so pleasant to drink that kids love this stuff. I mean, they literally bring their friends over and say, and their friends like it. It's just, yeah.
Neat. All right. Congratulations on that. That's great.
Thank you.
Well, our hour is up already. Thanks very much for being here. Thank you, Jeff, for doing so much to help so many people.
Yeah.
And again, the tragedy of it all is in Europe, they're taking all supplements away from people, not in Britain, but in Europe. And we've got to fight to maintain our birthright, which is to eat and take care of our bodies however we want. Thank you again, Stephen. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Bye.
Good night.